Everyone. I'm going to talk to you guys tonight about how I made the yearbook from the start to the finish. How I kind of chose the pictures, the layout, everything, because I honestly started with nothing. I started with a simple request for my daughter. I want a yearbook and just the memories I had from when I was a kid and what my yearbooks looked like growing up. And my daughter did have one yearbook. My oldest went to Christ the King from her kindergarten year up until the end of second grade. Ooh, just had a cross fall at me. And towards the end of second grade is when I found out about the amount of bullying that was happening there, and I pulled her immediately. But we did end up getting her yearbook this is the only yearbook she's ever had. It was her second grade year at Christ the King. And so this is her experience with the yearbook. And I don't know if me finding it kind of made her remember what it was like. But honestly, if they didn't get yearbooks, I think I might be a little sad too, because I remember my yearbooks from high school and from middle school and stuff. And it just was always so fun. Like this, I'm going to tell you the one issue I had with how they got this was, even though I pulled her early, these did not get delivered to the school until after the school year was out. So every single family who ordered a yearbook had to go and pick it up separately, which means there are no fun signatures from friends. And for me, that is my absolute favorite part of the yearbook. It was when we'd get our yearbooks, like, I don't know, a couple days before school let out, and then you'd bring all your fun, colorful pens, and all your friends would sign it, and you'd have all these silly memories, like, oh, see you next year, have a good summer, from like people you just kind of knew, and then like real in-depth fun messages from friends that you were actually like super good friends with. So looking back through that and remembering just different friends is always really special to me. So when I started, that all I had. I just had she wants a yearbook, and this is my memory of a yearbook, and this is her frame of reference for a yearbook. So I immediately got the Facebook page, and I started like trying to connect with different families. And so that was important to me, was having the families there and really getting a lot of pictures. I literally bought a camera for the yearbook for Salt and Light. I was not into photography at all. I knew absolutely nothing. So before I could even really get anything to put anything together, I had to figure out how to take pictures. And I'm sure that phones nowadays, they take amazing pictures, and a lot of the pictures that were submitted by parents that I've added into the yearbook are from iPhones or from Androids or whatever. But I knew I wanted portrait pages, because while you can have a ton of pictures with your friends, there's just something special about being able to go to whatever grade you were in and see your friends at that time from your classes, or since we're a homeschool family, maybe not even like your particular class or like particular grade, but your age range. So I struggled with that thought for a little bit, and I'll tell you some of the hang-ups that I had when I was creating our yearbook, which I haven't gotten yet, so I will unbox it on video so you guys can kind of see that when it comes. But the first part was learning how to take a picture, and I will do a separate video about my photography stuff so you can get an idea of how I did it. My main focus for photography was obviously portraits, because I wanted to capture not just candid moments, but I wanted to capture them in that year, in that moment, so that when they look back at this yearbook, it's not just them sweaty and running or swimming or whatever we were doing. They actually have a nice picture of them in that year. And I think that for parents, that's kind of a cool thing to be able to look back. Like, I can look back on this with my daughter. She was, like I said, I believe second grade. And I don't know if I'll be able to show you, because she's like going the wrong direction. But to be able to go and to look, and there's my little cutie. I don't know how to turn this book right there. She's my second grader, and now she's in high school. So that's crazy. So going into it, I had to learn photography. And then once I started to collect pictures, I started to talk to people that I knew were going to be in the group, and I started like looking at their Facebook pages, being like, hey, send me pictures, let's get all this together. And so for me, that was kind of the start, was just getting the pictures together and having them. And I would originally just create folders on my computer, like, summer or August or whatever. And so that was a super important part that I would suggest to anybody going into creating a yearbook, is staying super organized. Like, to have an individual folder, I knew going forward that the way I wanted to kind of set the yearbook up, because this isn't a traditional yearbook, we're a homeschool group. So we're not going to have classes, and we're not going to have, set clubs. Like, this is our group. So I separated by months, and I separated by events within the months. And that, it was good, but I just was throwing everything in there. So very early on, I learned I need to start going through them immediately. I didn't want to end up in March with 8,000 pictures and not really know what was good and what to not use. And so I started to cull the pictures and go through and be like, okay, this one's in focus and the kids' faces are clear and you can see emotions, and we'll keep this one. And while not every picture that I kept made it in the yearbook, it made it a lot easier when I had to go back and do edits, or I found out that I needed to replace a picture because I had used it somewhere else, which was a whole nother mess. Having that individual folder where I could go, okay, this is the month I'm trying to kind of fix. I could just go back to that month, and I knew I had already gone through these pictures. All of these pictures were in focus, and they were sharp, and they were clear, and they were good enough to be in the yearbook. And even if they didn't make it the first time I put pictures in the yearbook, if I needed another picture for like on our autograph pages or in just candid moments pages and not on that particular month, I knew that I could go through and I would know where to find particular things, because we had some very different field trips. So I would know, like, hey, this is the type of picture I'm looking for, and this is the folder I'm going to find it in. And even if pictures were good, if there were other stronger pictures for the yearbook, I definitely culled them out of it so that I wasn't overwhelmed going in when I was creating the pages. And so that was important to me. I will say, if you are choosing to make a yearbook, one of the first decisions you should do before creating pages is decide where you are going to publish your book through. I didn't realize this at the time when I started my yearbook pages, but not all yearbook companies will allow you to import pages from Canva. And so when I looked into legitimate yearbook companies, because I was go big or go home. And so I found that two of the most prominent yearbook companies that individual groups use is Tree Ring and Peekaboo Yearbooks. And both of them have a editing software within their system for you to create and design your pages and put everything together. The problem is they're clunky and they're not as pretty as designing your pages in Canva. And I had spent probably, I don't know, a full day's worth at least of creating my first couple pages. First couple pages were the slowest. I was not great in the beginning at, deciding which pictures and formatting, and I spent a long time on my first couple pages, and I loved them. I was so proud of these pages that I had created, and then I was like, well, I need to figure out, where we're going to print. And so when I went and I looked into Tree Ring and I looked into Peekaboo, I love both companies. I found both companies had incredible, support people. I ended up going with Peekaboo Yearbooks because they would allow me to create my entire file page in Canva and then import it into their software. Where Tree Ring, while they have amazing printed yearbooks too, that's where my sister's school gets hers from, and they look beautiful. I had to design within their software, or it was too much of a workaround for me to do. And so when I first was talking to them, I didn't think either of them would take my Canva things, and started to go down other little rabbit holes. But I was able to talk with some of their advisors, and the support team at Peekaboo is amazing. They not only helped me with the yearbook, they guided me in how to go about getting my tax exemption for when I printed the yearbook for my nonprofit. And they just had an amazing team that really backed me. So I only say to check where you want to print before you go ahead and design your pages, because if you spend hours and hours and hours in Canva and you have something that you absolutely love, and then you go with a company that won't allow you to import those pages, you basically have to start from scratch, starting all over within their software. And their software may be amazing, and maybe you find a template in their software that you love. I will say that Peekaboo sent out a guidebook, and this is a guidebook for how to do your entire yearbook, how to add stuff, how to choose what you're doing, and it basically shows you how to do everything within their software. I didn't realize they did this until after I had created almost my entire yearbook, but I did go ahead and read through it afterwards, and it would have been very helpful in the beginning. So if you go through a company, you might want to reach out and ask if they have anything similar to this that they will send you to help you learn how to use all of their stuff. And like I said, I didn't get this in time. I used ChatGPT to tell me how to use most of the things within their software. So once I had the structure, I knew like I wanted to do basically like how we started and like where it went from there, and kind of build a story. So it wasn't just like a yearbook where you had their portraits and then what they did. It was really about feeling like you're walking through the year again when you get the book. I don't want to give away a ton of spoilers because I want my group to see them first, because I'm so super excited for them to have the book in their hands. But so I decided that I would have the book as if you start at the beginning and you just get to walk through the year and you get to see how the year progressed. And so once I learned that I could import my pictures into Peekaboo yearbooks, I probably spent 2 days going back and forth with my advisor to find the right format to save my files in, and how to import them, and how to check the bleed lines. So on Canva, they're a little different than what they are in Peekaboo. And I'm glad I figured that out before my final proof, because I had to adjust almost every page just inward a little bit to make sure that everything was in the safe zone for printing. And those are little things. Like if you're doing them throughout the year, like next year it won't take as long, because I'll know when I finish a page, if I move it over, I can adjust it quickly instead of having 12 pages that I need to go back and just slightly adjust. So that was something that I'm glad I learned before it was now. But that's just a little thing that you don't think about if you're not creating a yearbook kind of on a regular basis. So the way I did it was each month had their own spread, and then the field trips would have their own spread. I wasn't thinking in pages. I was thinking in the feel of looking through it. I really wanted, when people hold this and they look through it, I want them to just feel like they're back in this year and remember what this year felt like, because it really was magical. Like it was amazing. And I had to have that in mind when I was creating my pages, because if you don't know what kind of feeling you're going for when people are flipping through it, then it can be easy for things to feel disjointed. Like in the yearbook my daughter has, it's very clear to see like everything. They had their clubs separately, like, and so you can see that when they did it, they were going by not events, not meetups. They were going by, this is what we did, and these are different aspects of what you could have joined at the school, and just stuff like that. So knowing that, I didn't necessarily want it to feel like it's not a school. We're not a traditional school. We are a homeschool group that meets up for community, and I just wanted it to feel like you were living those days again. And so to me, it was important that the whole book felt consistent. When I was designing these pages, I didn't want it to feel like every time you flip the page, it was a totally new thing. I wanted it to feel like it flowed from one event to the next. And so it was important to me knowing that it was consistent. And when I started in Canva and I didn't know where I was printing from, I had like watercolor backgrounds that looked really pretty in Canva, but once you put them in the book and you saw the proof, sometimes it felt like empty space. And when it's white empty space, it sometimes feels like you're missing something. And so I had to change the background color so that it felt more cohesive. I had to learn that while I might love 12 pictures might not fit well on one page. And sometimes when you take a couple away, it lets those other ones shine. So to me, that was important, that I really allowed breathing room for the picture, so you could have time to look at a picture and really, allow yourself to feel that moment, like to be part of it again. And something about each layout was, I didn't want just, movement. I needed balance in the pages. I didn't want people to feel overwhelmed looking at them like, oh my gosh, this is so much going on. So I kind of had to mix what type of pictures I put on the page. I had group shots and movement shots, and then sometimes just detail shots, so you could kind of feel what it was like there. And so it was hard to pick which pictures would work for each thing. And a lot of that came with choosing the right photos. And for me, this was something I was super conscious about, because as a mom of 5 kids and as a person who got a yearbook, and when I got my yearbook, the first thing I did was, where am I? What was I in? Because that's just who I was as a kid. And I didn't want anybody to get the yearbook and be like, oh, I'm not in this, and I'm only in this one page. And so I had to be very conscious about trying to pick pictures of different people. And we had very consistent families in our group this year. Like, we had people who showed up every single week and were consistent. And they show up more in the pages. Like, that's just human nature. I got more pictures of them. But I had to be very intentional not to stack my family into it, because I don't want a family photo album. I wanted a yearbook, and I wanted fair representation of everybody. And I really tried hard to make sure that I did that. I was very intentional, and I sometimes had to remind myself, no, it's okay to add pictures of my family as long as they're not the only family. And that was hard for me as a mom, because as a mom, I know how kids think. I know how my kids think, and I know that I got amazing pictures. So I personally put a ton of my amazing pictures of my family onto our Skylight calendar, because then they can look through their pictures all the time. And I often would choose someone else's family over my own for the yearbook, because I wanted to be fair in representation of our group. And I'll still look through it and be like, wow, this has a lot of pictures of my family. And that's only because my family was there. And there are definitely pages without my family. And that makes me feel like, okay, people will see that I didn't just try and put all pictures of my kids. It's hard. It's really hard to be fair to everybody and represent everybody, especially when I was just learning photography. So I would have sometimes that I would be like, oh my gosh, I got amazing shots. And then I'd get home and I just technically didn't have good pictures. And that was on me. That was, I relied on my camera a lot, and I didn't know enough about photography to understand the lighting or how to get good pictures. And I'll go into that in a different video. But so in the beginning, a lot of my pictures didn't come out the way I wanted them to. And so I relied a lot on pictures that people sent in, or just cropping pictures better. It's hard to find that balance and finally I'm at a point where I understand a lot more with the camera, and so I'm consistently getting better shots, which is a blessing and a curse, because now I'm consistently having more pictures that are technically really good, and even they might be emotionally good, but they're not the best, and I have to allow them to just live somewhere else and not in the yearbook. So then, like I said, the biggest issue, go to bed, was choosing the printer. And I cannot say enough good things about Peekaboo. Go. Peekaboo yearbooks. I am seriously so happy with the decision I made. My advisor's name was Megan, and she was amazing. She answered a million stupid questions, and I know you say there's no stupid questions. Well, wait till you get emails about yearbook questions from me, and you'll be like, wait, that was a stupid question. And she answered all of them, and she was amazing and graceful and so kind to me. But I really like, this book is fine. I'm not saying that this is not a good enough yearbook, but for me, I didn't want a yearbook that was stapled in the middle. And I'm gonna tell you right now, I might be a yearbook snob. I might be that person that's like, no, that's not good enough. I have not received these yearbooks yet, so I cannot attest to their quality yet. I am thinking that they're going to be amazing because that's my expectation. And you'll see me when I unbox them. I'll let you know. I'll have a very honest opinion for you, because like I said, I want a very real yearbook feel. I didn't want to do a yearbook that I sent off to Shutterfly and got a photo book back. I wanted my kids to hold that book and be like, this is a legit yearbook. This is what this is what I wanted. And so it was a hard decision. I didn't want to do, I had binding machines. I gave them away. I didn't want a spiral bound book. I didn't want something that felt like it would fall apart. I want something, this book has lasted. This is 9, I don't know. It's old, but it's lived on a shelf. It hasn't been looked through very much. I looked through my book a ton because of the signatures and stuff. Our last meetup is a yearbook signing day, because that is how much this means to me. I want these families and these kids to be able to share their memories and write them down, and then when they take their yearbook home, it's not only something that I put work into, and it's not only pictures, but it's real words from their friends, and it's something they can look back on forever and be like, I remember this year. So it was important to me that I found a legitimate printer, and these books are not going to be flimsy little books. They're going to be legitimate yearbooks that these kids can have forever, and that was my goal. It really was my goal, and there were things that were harder than expected. Page limits, like I have 100 pages in this yearbook, and I didn't think I'd get there. I thought, like, this is going to be a homeschool book, and maybe I'll have 50 and it'll be small. This right here is like 72 pages. This thing from Peekaboo is like 82. It's going to be bigger than this. Like, it's a legit book. It's not a joke. Like, this is a yearbook. And so it was hard, and there were times that I would go over pages and I'd look and I'd be like, could I have cropped this better? Should I change this? And I think the hardest thing that I really dealt with was saying that enough was enough, saying that page is good enough. Because while I'm not a perfectionist, I wanted this book to be perfect for my entire group. I wanted every page that they looked at to just feel absolutely magical, and for them to look at it and be like, oh my gosh, this year was amazing. And I know that's a lot to expect from a book, but I have that expectation, and I can't wait to hold the book in my hand and flip through it for myself, because there's something so different from looking at a proof on the screen. Because Peekaboo yearbooks, you can click and they will send you a proof of your entire yearbook anytime you want. I did it every time I added pages. It was great. I could look through, I could see where the cutoffs were, I could adjust. And but there's going to be something so special about actually holding it in my hands, being able to flip through it, just the smell of a new book. Like, there's no words for how excited I am right now. But yeah, it was hard. There were hard parts about it. And actually the hardest part was the portraits, and Peekaboo yearbooks made that so easy. I didn't use a portrait photographer. I took all of the photos myself, except for when I like our schedules didn't meet up, and then some parents did send me pictures. But Peekaboo Yearbooks has this thing where you can add a person, and when you add a person, you add their name, their grade, and then other identifying things, like it has like homeroom or classroom or whatever, and then you put that into their software, and then you add the photo, and it will organize them by grade. Like, you set the rules for your portrait pages, and it'll organize them alphabetically by grade or by whatever criteria you use. And so that, honestly, in the beginning was the hardest part, because I was trying to do everything all by myself in Canva, which meant I was trying to, in my head, alphabetize everybody and get them all looking pretty. And just when I handed that over to Peekaboo and their software, which was created to do this, it made it so much easier. So when I looked through it, I had to make sure everything felt cohesive, the fonts, the print, everything was clear and clean to read. And I am fairly confident that this is going to be the best yearbook ever. And if you tell me otherwise, I won't believe you. I'm going to be honest. So I'll get into next time how I capture the pictures, the photography side of it. Not that I am, don't come at me with real photography questions, because I am winging it every day. And there have been so many times that I'm out trying to capture something and I'm like, ChatGPT, tell me what's wrong with my camera. And I feel confident now that I can catch good pictures consistently, but I don't consider myself a photographer. But I'll let you know, because I'll let you know how I kind of did that in the next video, because anybody can pick up a camera and create something beautiful if they put the time and the energy into it. But I hope this helps. If you have any questions, if I didn't address something that you thought I should have, just let me know. I can come back and answer questions or do whatever. But I hope you guys have a great night, and I'll see you next time. Bye.